Inside the gates of hell, the 9 circles of eternal punishment. Have you ever wondered what really happens after your last breath? Forget the bedtime stories, the comforting sermons, the sugar-coated beliefs. What you're about to hear isn't a metaphor, it's a map. A forbidden guide feared for centuries, whispered in shadows and revealed only to those who dare to see beyond the veil. There's one gate, just one, and it doesn't open with prayers or candles. It opens with truth, and beyond it, there is no mercy, only consequence. Hell isn't a place for monsters. It's where ordinary souls end up, the ones who hid, lied, pretended, and ignored the warnings. This might sound different from what you've been told, but here there are no last-minute bargains, no shortcuts, just raw, perfect justice. Each circle is a mirror of who we truly were. And what damns us isn't the sin itself, it's the choice we made over and over again to ignore the cost. Get ready to descend, not with your body, but with your spirit, your mind, your memories. Each step down is a deeper truth. From the silent lands of Limbo to the frozen curse of betrayal, this isn't just a guided tour. It's a warning, a mirror, and maybe your last one. What you're about to hear might shake you. You'll think of people you know. You'll remember moments you regret, or worse, you'll recognize parts of yourself. Because hell doesn't begin with flames. It begins with a decision. A small, wrong choice, repeated too many times, carving a path straight into the abyss. This video isn't for the faint of heart. It's for those who'd rather face the pain of awareness than the comfort of ignorance. So if you're ready, step forward. But know this, once you see what lies beyond the gate, you can never unsee it. Welcome to the gates of hell. The 9 circles of eternal punishment await. The gate of hell, where it all begins. The entrance to hell is not just a place, it's a calling. A dark invitation sealed by an ancient oath, engraved in the eternal flames of a world where hope is the first to die. Picture yourself standing before colossal gates forged in living embers, where the heat feels like it burns straight into your soul. And right there, carved like a curse, the words, "Abandon all hope, you who enter here." This isn't poetry, it's a sentence. In that moment, there's no turning back. The soul knows crossing that threshold doesn't just change your surroundings, it changes your very existence. As your feet step beyond the gate, there's no sound, only screams. Not the kind you hear, but the kind you feel. A choir of torment that vibrates through your bones. Even as a spirit, the weight of what's ahead becomes unbearable. Eternity stops being an abstract idea. It becomes a crushing presence. Everyone who makes it this far carries one clear certainty. The past is over. Judgment isn't a possibility, it's a fact. And here, time doesn't flow. It freezes, dragging your awareness through a corridor where every second lasts a century. Dante Alighieri described this place with surgical precision. And yet, the truth is more visceral. He translated the invisible into words. But no words can describe the smell of sulfur, the unbearable heat, or the distant whispers of lost souls. Many believe hell is just moral exaggeration, a bedtime story to scare children. But what if it's not? What if there truly is a point of no return? That doubt alone should make us tremble. Curiosity, if left unchecked, can push us right through that door. Some say hell begins before death, that this gate opens while you're still alive, when the soul strays so far that it can no longer recognize the light. Have you ever seen someone who seems dead inside even while breathing? That's the sign, the reflection of what lies beyond those burning gates. And worse, sometimes people run toward that place as if eager to burn. Thoughtless choices, merciless acts, selfish decisions, all of it paving the road, brick by brick, until the entrance becomes unavoidable. This is the moment when the veil breaks. The soul realizes that nothing, Absolutely nothing, and from the world it once loved, can cross that threshold. Family, memories, regret, all left behind. In here, only the final version of yourself remains. And the cruelest truth, every soul knows exactly why it ended up here. There are no lies in hell. Truth is an unbreakable mirror, one that no one wants to face. Do you know what most people feel first after crossing the gate? Not pain, but awareness. A sharp lucidity that cuts deeper than any blade. That's when the soul sees everything it could have been and wasn't. Every hug denied, every chance ignored, every fake smile. Suddenly, each little choice becomes a scream. This is a hell that begins in the mind before it ever touches flame. And that's when the real despair sets in, the knowledge that nothing can be undone. But perhaps the most disturbing truth is this: once the gate is crossed, the rules change. Free will no longer exists, only consequence. And that is the first warning for those still on this side. Hell doesn't begin with fire, it begins with a decision. The decision to ignore the signs, to live on autopilot, to think that would never happen to me. And just like that, many are already on their way. They just haven't heard the warning written in flames yet. The first circle, Limbo, the light of hope. Extinguished. Limbo is a strange place. Neither full condemnation nor redemption. It's like a waiting room where the door never opens. Unlike the flames and screams of the deeper circles, here, silence rules. A heavy silence, not comforting, just oppressive. Those who dwell here were not cruel or evil. Many lived with kindness, ethics, and purpose, but they lacked faith. And in this universe, where the spiritual law reigns supreme, that alone is enough for the light to fade. There is no physical punishment in Limbo. The torment is subtler, yet far more cruel. It's the eternal absence of God. A paradise without color, a garden with no fruit. Souls wander through shadowy castles, forgotten libraries, gardens where time doesn't flow. Beautiful places, but lifeless, like black and white paintings of a world that once was, but will never be again. Imagine being surrounded by everything you once longed for, and never being able to touch it, to see the sky but never reach it, to smell the perfume of hope, and know it'll never be yours. It's the torment of near salvation, and maybe that hurts more than any physical pain. Because here, the punishment lies in awareness, in the certainty that you were close to but not enough. Many great names roam here. Ancient philosophers, righteous kings, brilliant scientists, people who, in the eyes of the world, were examples. But in the court of eternity, something was missing. It's not about religion, it's about spiritual connection, about what goes beyond logic, intellect, or morality. It's a kind of wisdom only the soul can reach, not the prideful mind. You know that kind of person who thinks they're good enough to not need anything else? The ones who say, "I've never hurt anyone." That's got to count for something. That's the most common type in Limbo. And the environment reflects the state of these souls. Nothing is hot or cold, everything is lukewarm. Emotions are too dull to move, thoughts too deep to set you free. It's like living in a constant state of almost happiness, almost peace, almost light. And ironically, it's this almost that hurts the most. Because someone who never felt the light doesn't know what they've lost. But the ones who came close, they carry a void that echoes. And that echo is the dominant sound in Limbo. Not a scream, not a whisper, but a hollow, repetitive sound like a sigh of regret that never fades. Now think about that in real life. How many people do you know who live this way? People who seem to have it all, yet feel something's missing. They follow all the social rules, yet carry a hole in their soul. That's it. Limbo begins when life is lived without a higher purpose. When transcendence is traded for routine. It's like climbing a mountain, only to find the summit has no view. And you know what's most dangerous? It's comfortable. Yes, Limbo doesn't frighten, it seduces, with a false sense of completeness. And that's why few want to leave. And fewer still manage to. Many think hell is all pain, blood, and screams. But Limbo shows another face of the abyss, the void. Here, no one cries out loud. They suffer in silence. And that quiet suffering is more dangerous than any torture, because it's internal, corrosive, and worse, disguised as peace. The person begins to accept it. They convince themselves everything is fine, that this lukewarm little life is good enough. But deep down, they know, they feel they're wasting time, wasting life, wasting eternity. And time in this circle is the only thing left for those who already lost everything that matters. And that's how Limbo holds on to its souls, not with chains, but with illusions, the feeling of safety, the comfort of a pseudo-life, the deceitful calm of, I'm not that bad. That's the real prison. Because when the soul settles for mediocrity, it moves away from the light. And when the light fades, there's no candle that can relight it. What remains? Only the echo of a hope that once shined, and now dimmed, opens the path to darker circles where fury waits for no invitation. The fifth circle, wrath, the fury that never ends. Reaching the fifth circle is like stepping onto a battlefield where no one has ever won, only ruins remain. Here, wrath rules. But it's not that fleeting anger from someone losing patience. In traffic, no. This is the kind of rage that's been nurtured, hate that's grown roots, fury so deep it devours everything around it. The landscape is a thick, boiling swamp where enraged souls clash like beasts, trapped in an endless cycle of destruction. The water is dark, bubbling like lava, and swallows anyone who tries to escape. And the air? Heavy, dense, like the heart of someone who never forgave. This war is internal and eternal. These souls no longer recognize each other as people, only as enemies. They strike without thought, drowning in their own venom. It's a violent loop, where every punch and every scream is a reminder of who they once were. People who clung to resentment for years, who fed on grudges, who let anger become identity. Know someone who never lets go? Always bad-mouthing others? That kind of spirit is already rehearsing right now the path to this circle. Because when rage becomes addiction, it shapes the soul. And hell only reveals what was already buried inside. On the edges of the swamp, another scene unfolds. Souls sunken in the mud, eyes wide open yet voiceless. These are the ones who suffocated their anger, the passive-aggressives, the ones who smiled on the outside but hated within, who swallowed their rage but never forgave. Their punishment is worse. They cannot scream, they cannot fight back. They simply feel the fury gnawing at them from the inside, with no relief. It's like choking forever on words never spoken. Hell, here, is silence. A silence heavy as stone. An emotional swamp that crushes the soul without chains. You've heard the phrase, anger is a poison you drink hoping the other person will die. That's exactly it. The difference here is the poison never runs out. And the other, they never die either. Both stay locked in battle forever, and that alone is the definition of madness. In life, anger might feel justified. It might give the illusion of strength, but in the end, it drags the soul downward, literally, and the swamp of the fifth circle is deep enough to swallow any hope of peace. Want a practical example? Think of a time you were betrayed or humiliated. What did you do with that feeling? Did you hold on to it? Wish for revenge? Replay the moment over and over in your head, imagining what you could have said? That's the turning point. This isn't about being nice. It's about not carrying emotional garbage that will sooner or later turn into a prison. Undigested anger becomes acid, and that acid burns from within until it burns everything. The hell of wrath begins inside each of us, long before death. And if you don't learn to deal with it, it will drag you down. There's a cruel irony in this circle. Everyone screams, but no one hears, because the rage here is deaf. It's an inner noise so loud it drowns out any truth, any reason. There's no dialogue, no ceasefire, only battle. And the most terrifying part is that many get used to it. They become warriors of hate, proud of their scars. But deep down, they're just prisoners of themselves, fighting shadows, repeating the same motions for all eternity. It's the eternal return of resentment, a cycle that only breaks with forgiveness. But here, it's already too late, and the swamp, forever boiling, keeps swallowing new bodies, new souls, new unresolved stories. No one ends up in this circle by accident. Each one dug their own pit with attitudes, words, and thoughts. Anger doesn't explode suddenly, it ferments. And when it does explode, it's too late to hide from the mud. But the darkest part is yet to come, because some sins don't scream, don't burst. They hide, silent, waiting for the right moment to ignite everything. The seventh circle, violence, blood, fire, and despair. In the seventh circle, hell takes on a different shade. Now, red is not just symbolic, it is literal. Violence takes form. It's no longer an idea, but a territory. Here, everything, your pulses, like an open wound. The earth is cracked, bathed in scalding blood, and the screams come not only from pain, but from guilt. This circle is divided into 3 rings, as if hell itself insisted on separating each kind of destruction. Each ring holds a form of violence, against others, against oneself, and against the divine. And in each, the punishment is not only painful, it is perfectly symmetrical with the sin. In the first ring, those violent against others walk, submerged up to their necks, in a river of searing blood. Soldiers, assassins, tyrants, all floating in their own rage, now transformed into molten punishment. Centaurs patrol the shores with arrows drawn, ensuring that no one rises, not even for a second. Justice here is relentless. You spilled blood? Now you are condemned to live immersed in it. It's brutal, but just. And the most intriguing part? They all know they deserve it. The soul does not protest, it surrenders, because here, even denial burns more than the punishment itself. In the second ring, those who turn their violence inward exist among twisted trees that weep when wounded. These are the forests of those who broke their pact with life. Now they live trapped in roots that nourish nothing, in branches that can never reach the sky. The branches groan, the wind offers no comfort. Infernal winged beings with blade-like wings tear at the leaves as punishment, and each cut is a scream. Here the torment is twofold: to be and not be able to cease to be, a body without movement, a soul in eternal regret. In the third ring, the scenery changes once more: a desert of fire, scorching sand, and a rain of flames that never ends. Here dwell those who dared to raise a hand against the sacred, blasphemers, profaners, corrupters of the divine order. The punishment is constant, aggressive, offering not a second of relief. Each step burns, each breath ignites from within. They mocked the eternal, now they burn without interruption. And the sky, once denied, now weighs upon them like molten iron. There is no shade in this desert, only an excess of light, a cruel irony for those who despised the true light. If you stop to think, violence is more common than it seems. It doesn't always come with fists or knives. Sometimes it arrives with words that cut deeper than blades, with contempt, abandonment, emotional abuse. And all of that, in essence, is what shapes this circle. How many times does a soul wound without lifting a finger? And how many times does it wound itself for not being able to forgive? Hell only crystallizes what was already poison in life. And here, that poison drips from the stones, from the leaves, from the flaming tears of the condemned. The most frightening thing in this circle is the sense of justice that hangs in the air. Nothing here feels exaggerated. Everything is mathematically aligned with the act committed. There is no room for error, no exaggeration, no mercy. It's as if nature itself says, "You did this, now feel this." It's harsh, but direct. And that's why the souls here don't cry out for help. They scream inwardly, because what hurts is not just the fire, but the awareness that they could have chosen differently. And that pain, that doesn't just burn the flesh, it burns the spirit. And at the bottom of this circle, where the heat seems to have a life of its own, something begins to change, because the next layer of hell does not feed on fire. It is cold, silent, and in a way even more cruel. For where violence screams, betrayal whispers, and what comes after fire is the absolute freezing of the soul. Most people expect to find hell in flames, but the deepest circle, the ninth, does not burn. It freezes. There are no flames here, only silence and ice. A silence heavier than any scream, and a cold that is not just physical, but spiritual. This is the place of betrayal, the space reserved for those who broke what was sacred, trust. Each soul here is a frozen echo of a broken promise. The air is sharp, and the frozen winds whisper forgotten names, shattered vows, destroyed alliances. The ground is crystalline, and trapped within it are motionless figures, but fully aware. These souls do not move, they do not scream, they only watch. Trapped beneath the frozen surface like insects in amber, their eyes always open, because the punishment here is not physical pain. It is the eternal awareness of what they caused. Betrayal of blood, of loyalty, of love. Each kind of disloyalty has its chamber in this polar abyss, and at the center of it all is Lucifer, not as king, but as prisoner. His three mouths forever chew the souls that dare defy him. Judas Iscariot, Brutus, Cassius, an eternal theater of the coldest consequence. Total disconnection. Betrayal, unlike anger or violence, is subtle. It comes with embraces, promises, dinners, and false glances. And that's why this circle does not move. Everything here is static, cold, frozen in time and in guilt. Have you ever felt it? The pain of being betrayed by someone you trusted, blindly. Now imagine that sensation eternalized, but on the other side, being the traitor, there is no escape here. No justification to warm this void, because the soul knows, it knows what it did. And hell here is that frozen lucidity that never sleeps. Betrayal is one of the deepest wounds one can inflict, because it doesn't just hurt the moment. It breaks the past, distorts the present, and paralyzes the future. Anyone who has been betrayed understands. After that, nothing is ever the same, and the moral universe responds accordingly. Here, the traitor doesn't scream, because the cold has paralyzed everything. But inside, their mind repeats the exact moment of rupture like a nightmare looping endlessly. What was said? What was hidden? What was planned? Everything repeats, like a needle spinning infinitely on the same groove. And you know what's most cruel? The silence. The ice here does not reflect sound. It's as if even regret is smothered. There are no pleas for forgiveness, no reconciliation. Because betrayal is not just a mistake, it is a choice. And when the soul decides to betray, it breaks something that cannot be mended. This applies to friendships, to family ties, to love, and even to the spirit itself, too. Betray oneself is to sink into this ice from within, even while still alive. Have you seen people who live as if they are emotionally frozen? Yes. Some are already in this circle without knowing it. The ninth circle does not wound with fire, but with distance. It is the absolute abyss. Here the soul feels no warmth, hears no voices, sees no escape. It only realizes that it is alone, completely alone, because the greatest punishment of the traitor is not to be hated, but to be forgotten, to be buried in the ice of divine indifference without the right to speak, to be judged or to be redeemed. All that exists here is absence. Absence of forgiveness, absence of light, absence of name. Because when one betrays, even their own name loses value, and that weighs more than any chain. But even in this frozen silence, something still vibrates, because the end of this journey, this spiral descent, is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a truth that few are ready to face. Because when you cross the 9 circles, when you look into the eyes of the abyss, something even deeper reveals itself. Now that you've descended to the very core of hell, tell me, in which circle did your soul hesitate? In which mirror did you see yourself? Because here's the truth. Hell may seem distant, but it begins within us. In the small, daily betrayals, in the wounds we never heal, in the anger we hide and quietly feed. This video isn't a threat, it's a mirror, and only those brave enough to truly face themselves can change their fate before it fulfills itself. So, the real question isn't, do you believe in hell? But rather, are you creating yours right now? Because if you've made it this far, something inside you is asking for transformation. And no, you don't need to wait for eternal punishment to change what you already know must be changed. Want a way forward? Start with forgiveness, an apology, a break from what's dragging you down. Choose the light while there's still time. Don't let the lukewarm routine of limbo suffocate you. Don't let anger drown you in the swamp of wrath. Don't feed a life without purpose. Don't live as if nothing has consequences, because it does. What you do in life echoes through eternity, whatever name you choose to give it. If there's something you need to say, say it. If there's someone you need to forgive, forgive. If there's something eating you up inside, set it free. Now tell me, what scared you the most in this journey? Which of these circles have you been through emotionally? Share it in the comments. I want to know what this dive awakened in you. Maybe your pain is the same as many others. Maybe your transformation will inspire someone not to fall so deep. And if this video opened your eyes, don't let that die here. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep walking with me on this journey of deep discoveries. Here, we don't talk about fantasy, we talk about the truth no one had the courage to tell you until now.